Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present on the observer versus the experiencer, Tiresias and Orlando's relationship with time. Uh, these are my academic information. My research question for this presentation is how do the roles of Tiresias in the Westland and Orlando in Orlando by Virginia Woolf differ in their engagement with time, and what does this reveal about modernist perspectives on history and identity? The hypothesis asserts that while Tiresias in the Westland exists as an observer outside time, doomed to passively witness history's cycle of destruction, Orlando in Woolf's novel actively moves through different historical periods, shaping and experiencing time rather than merely watching it. This contrast reflects a fundamental difference in modernist thought, Eliot's vision of inevitable decline versus Woolf's more fluid and transformative approach to history and identity. Introduction. Time has been a central preoccupation of modernist literature, shaping the way authors engage with history, identity, and human experience. T.S. Eliot's The Westland and Virginia Woolf's Orlando present two contrasting relationships with time through their characters, Tiresias and Orlando. While Tiresias exists as a passive observer trapped in an unchanging cycle of history. Orlando actively moves through time, experiencing and shaping different historical periods. This contrast reflects broader modernist debates, Eliot's vision of historical decline and fragmentation versus Woolf's belief in fluidity of the time and identity. Modernism and time context. Modernism emerged in response to the disillusionment after World War I. Thinkers like Eliot emphasized cultural decay, while Woolf celebrated the personal and subjective experiences of time. I've used Bergson's idea of la durée, a concept of fluid inner time, and Kristeva's theory of women's time, which distinguishes between cyclical and monumental and linear time structures. Modernism redefined historical consciousness, rejecting Victorian progress narratives, while Eliot saw time as an oppressive accumulation of ruins. Woolf embraced its fluidity. Tiresias embodies cyclical mythic time, while Orlando experiences historical time as transformative and personal. Tiresias as observer. Tiresias is a blind prophet who lived as both man and woman. In the Westland, he becomes an all seeing witness to human folly, but crucially, he can't intervene. His gender fluidity is not lived but remembered, a sum of past experiences. That the original line. This is the original line from the poem. I Tiresias have foresuffered all. This line shows how time weighs on him as burden and not giving him the freedom. Tiresias and temporal observation. Tiresias observes but does not participate in history. Uh, Gender as accumulated knowledge, not lived experience. Time as burden, and we can see that in that line of Eliot's poem. Eliot's Tiresias represents the overwhelming weight of historical consciousness. He is cursed with the knowledge of past and future, yet he is unable to change fate. Kristeva's concept of monumental time is a state where history is cyclical and unchanging, aligns with Tiresias' role as a passive observer of human folly. Eliot's historical vision. Eliot sees history as a series of collapses. His mythic method, using figures like Tiresias, tries to make sense of the chaos, but it ultimately reinforces the idea that we are trapped in decline. For him, the past overpowers the present. Eliot believed that modern civilization suffered from a loss of coherence, where history was an accumulation of fragmented ruins. His mythical method sought to impose order on the present by drawing connections to past, yet this method ultimately underscored the inevitability of decline. Orlando as the experiencer. Now, compare to Tiresias, Orlando was born a man in 1588 and transforming into a woman in the 17th century. Orlando lives for over 400 years. Woolf treats time not as a burden but as a medium for growth and reinvention. That we can see in Orlando, that how uh, Orlando lives for only 36 years, but in real time, she has passed more over 400 years. For she had a great variety of selves to call upon. In this line, identity is we can find that identity is continuous, multiple, and evolving. Unlike Tiresias, Orlando moves through time as an active participant. Orlando and temporal experience. Orlando engages with history, adapting to change. Gender as a lived experience. He is experiencing the both gender uh, fluidities, and he is not a mere observer of that. Orlando's journey illustrates Woolf's belief that identity is not bound by rigid historical categories, while Eliot's Tiresias is trapped in a repetitive cycle. Orlando's identity evolves across centuries, demonstrating a hopeful vision of human adaptability. Woolf's historical vision. Uh, Woolf sees history as a source. The past doesn't trap the individual, it enriches the present. Orlando's ability to adapt across eras show how identity and time are flexible. Woolf challenges Eliot's view of history as a weight upon the individual, and instead she presents history as a rich and flexible resource that depends present experience rather than constraining it. Uh, this chart is a comparative analysis of Tiresias and Orlando as observer and experiencer. We can see that Tiresias is positioned out of time. He observes human history and suffering, but doesn't actively participate. His experience of time is reflective and removed. Orlando, on the other hand, is embedded in time. She lives through centuries, actively engaging in different eras and evolving with them. Time is something she moves through, not something she watches from afar. Then, gender identity. For Tiresias, gender is symbolic and static. His transformation from male to female is a mythic memory, not a lived experience. It's more metaphorical than personal. Orlando's gender is embodied and evolving. She physically transforms into a woman and continues to live a rich, sensual life as both men and women, suggesting a more fluid and lived gender experience. In comparison, as an in dimension of agency, Tiresias is largely passive. He sees but cannot change anything. He knows but he cannot act. He is a figure of prophecy, not power. Orlando has active agency. She writes, travels, loves, and constantly reinvents herself. She doesn't just witness change; she becomes it. In the dimension of view of history, We can say that Tiresias embodies Eliot's idea of cyclical decay, a vision of history that repeats the same mistakes, offering little hope for renewal. On the other hand, Orlando represents a transformative continuity. Time allows her to grow, adapt, and carry the richness of the past into new form. Woolf treats history as creative rather than fatalistic. So, this chart highlights how Eliot and Woolf offer contrasting modernist philosophies. Tiresias reflects anxiety and alienation in the face of a decaying world. Orlando represents a more optimistic, liberating vision where time and identity are not fixed but open to constant reinvention. Gender and temporal experience. So, Kristeva's concept of women's time helps here to understand this concept as Tiresias fits in monumental time, a fixed mythic cycle. On the other hand, Orlando aligns with cyclical time that is intimate, lived, and creative. Her transformation is not symbolic; it's an existential and ongoing journey. Tiresias' gender fluidity is detached and abstract, whereas Orlando's gender transformation is lived and embodied. Competing modernist visions. Uh, Eliot's The Westland represents the past, crushes the present, and identity is fractured. Whether Wolf's Orlando suggests the past deepens the present, and identity is expansive and ongoing. Their characters embody these views, and Tiresias is weighed down by time, and Orlando flows through it. Eliot's Tiresias embodies the pessimistic modernist vision of historical fragmentation, while Woolf's Orlando offers a hopeful alternative where history and identity remain fluid and open ended. This contrast underscores a fundamental debate with modernism whether time is a force of operation and liberation. So, conclusion. The contrast between Tiresias and Orlando highlights two competing modernist perspectives on time, history, and identity. Tiresias, bound by the weight of the past, embodies Eliot's vision of history as a cycle of decay and fragmentation, where individuals are powerless to alter fate. In contrast, Orlando's journey through centuries marked by transformation and personal evolution reflects Woolf's optimistic belief in history as a resource for growth rather than a burden. This fundamental divergence underscores a broader debate in modernist literature. Is time an oppressive force that dictates human existence, or is it a fluid and experiential construct that allows for reinvention and renewal? By examining these characters, we gain a deeper understanding of modernism's response to history, identity, and the passage of time. So, these are my references, and thank you so much.